Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Wrapping up this inaugural week, and boy, what a week it has been, starting with the inauguration of President Donald Trump on Monday. The Trump administration announced yesterday that Ukrainian President Zelenskyy is ready to negotiate a peace deal to end the war with Russia, adding that Russian President Putin is also eager to meet soon to discuss potential resolutions. We have the update on you there. Never one to shy away from confronting an issue, President Trump yesterday took aim at Bank of America and their CEO during the World Economic Forum, accusing the bank of unfairly denying banking services to conservatives. We have always suspected Politico as leaning towards the left, but now we have proof that their coverage of certain stories have deliberately been sidelined by editors. Former Politico reporters Marc, Caputo, and Palmeri recently shared insights into their experiences at the outlet, revealing instances where their reporting on Hunter Biden faced pushback or delays or just ignored the stories altogether from higher-ups. And big changes at the border. Illegal immigrant encounters have dropped sharply this week under President Donald Trump. Could this be the start of a Trump effect?
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but you know they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
President Trump announced on Thursday that Ukrainian President Zelenskyy is ready to negotiate. Speaking from the Oval Office after signing several executive orders, Trump expressed optimism about the possibility of brokering peace in this conflict that has devastated both countries. When asked whether Zelenskyy had conveyed his willingness to negotiate, Trump confirmed that yes, he's ready to negotiate a deal. Trump said he'd like to stop this. The Ukrainian leader, Trump noted, has suffered significant losses in this ongoing war, as has Russia, which he claimed has lost 800,000 soldiers, a number he described as a lot, and yes, it is. President Trump was questioned about whether sanctions could push Russia toward the negotiating table. He expressed an uncertainty. He emphasized the importance of making a deal. He said, "I don't know, but I think Putin should make a deal." The president also emphasized the influence of China over Russia, noting that China is a major trading partner and energy buyer from Russia, giving Beijing substantial leverage. Trump also mentioned that Putin has expressed interest in meeting with him, stating, "From what I hear, Putin would like to see me, and we'll meet as soon as we can." The president also described the war as ridiculous and lamented the unprecedented levels of casualties on the battlefield, comparing the scale of destruction to World War II. Reports from Reuters indicate that Putin is increasingly concerned about Russia's economic stability as Trump re-enters the White House and pushes for an end to this war. Putin has previously signaled his willingness to engage in negotiations without preconditions. Last month, he stated that Russia is ready for negotiations and compromises and added that soon there will be no one left who wants to fight. Well, that's good enough reason to stop, isn't it? Trump's initiative to mediate peace reflects one of his campaign promises to resolve global conflicts, including the war in Ukraine, and getting us out of there, getting the United States involvement out. Speaking of war, Pete Hegseth, President Trump's pick for defense secretary, just cleared a major procedural hurdle in the Senate yesterday, 51-49 to begin debate on his confirmation. It's a step closer to the final vote, but the opposition is fierce. This could come down to literally one or two votes for sure. Democrats, led by Chuck Schumer, are calling Hegseth utterly unqualified. Why? Well, they're dredging up personal allegations, claims from his ex-sister-in-law about drinking and supposed issues in his second marriage. Now, Even Hegseth's ex-wife has denied any abuse. What else do they need? And his lawyer called the affidavits flawed and questionable. This isn't about Pete Hegseth's qualifications. It's about the left's fear of having someone in charge of the Pentagon who's not going to push their woke agenda. Hegseth is all about combat readiness and getting rid of DEI nonsense that's weakening our military. He's made it clear he's going to focus on making our forces lethal and effective, not politically correct, and that's what we need to know. Let's not forget Hegseth is a decorated Army veteran with tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's got the backbone to stand up to the Pentagon bureaucracy and to push President Trump's America First agenda. This fight over his confirmation, again, it's not about him, it's not about his qualifications, it's about the direction of our military. CNN, the so-called trusted name in news, is shaking things up again, and guess who's been left out in the cold so far? None other than anti-Trump anchor Jim Acosta. Jim Acosta, he has a 10 a.m. slot that has been replaced by Wolf Blitzer and Pamela Brown in the Situation Room, and now Acosta's future seems a bit uncertain. CNN says that they're in active discussions about a new time slot for Acosta, but rumors are swirling that he's been offered a midnight shift. They're putting him overnights. Wow, how the mighty have fallen. Remember Jim Acosta, who made his name shouting at President Trump, sparring with his press secretaries? Back then, CNN loved it. Now, not so much, because their ratings have tanked, their revenue's drying up, and they're trying to figure out what the formula is to get back in the game. Word is that Acosta's not thrilled about the demotion, and look, who could blame him? One CNN staffer even said he's getting hosed by the network. If he takes the midnight slot, it could mean a move to the Los Angeles bureau, far from his D.C. stomping grounds, and if he refuses, well, don't be surprised if Acosta exits stage left. Let's not forget, this is all happening as CNN announced this week that they're laying off 6% of their workforce. The network's current leadership is clearly trying to distance themselves from Acosta and his style of grandstanding that defined its Trump-era coverage. They're aiming for a little bit of neutrality now and to try to convince the American people that they're going to be fair again. I don't know that I'm buying it. Are you? Karine Jean-Pierre, President Biden's former press secretary, and in a recent tell-all story that was printed in Vanity Fair, kind of tries to defend KJP's struggle performing her duties as the White House press secretary. Now, I'm going to give her credit. She opened up about some tough personal challenges. I get that, including that her mom is battling stage 2 colon cancer, and that she is trying to juggle one of the most high-profile jobs in Washington with also caring for her mother. And I give her that. I'm sorry for that. Jean-Pierre shared that she found out about her mom's diagnosis back in 2022 while traveling with President Biden in Poland. Her mom, according to the story, made her promise not to tell anyone, not even the president, but Biden, to his credit, was one of the few people in the White House who knew and apparently showed her support during this very tough time in her life. Now she talks about being a first. In the story, she talks about being the first black, the first openly queer, the first Haitian American to hold the press secretary position, and how that came with its own challenges. She says she carried the, quote, weight of representing so many communities and felt society wouldn't let her show vulnerability, especially as a woman of color. And this is where I have to call her out. The mere fact that she is the so-called first in all these categories confirms President Trump's order to immediately shut down DEI. As I've said in the past, and I stand by this, Karine Jean-Pierre was not qualified for that job. Karine Jean-Pierre, if you ever watched her, I mean, she had that big 3-ring binder that she tried to read answers from, but if you ask her a question that she didn't have the answer in that book for, she was totally lost. She just simply wasn't qualified to do what she was doing, and the fact that she is a gay woman of color is the only reason she got the job. And that's what is so wrong about diversity, equity, and inclusion. You give people jobs that they're not qualified and should not have. And Karine Jean-Pierre she's got another first. She's the poster child of DEI. You agree? Does anyone believe that Karine Jean-Pierre would have had that job or would get a job like that for a major company in the United States? In the world, for that matter. She's just not good on her feet. She's not necessarily a smart lady. I'm sure she's, to work with her, she seems like she's a sweet, kind person. But that's not the qualifications to be in one of the most pressurized, one of the most high-profile positions in the White House. She's the face and the voice of the White House every single day. Again, I pray for her mom, and I pray for her mom's total healing. There's a lot of talk about making America great again, and it begins with making America healthy again. Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team at PhD Weight Loss are at the forefront to educate and guide you to be your best self. The millions being spent in propping up Big Pharma are astounding, only to create long-term dependency and harmful side effects. Let's take a natural approach that isn't connected to a pharmaceutical company's bottom line. The coaches at PhD Weight Loss will show you how. The entire program is centered around science and nutrition, a proven roadmap that has helped over 8,000 clients lose over 331,000 pounds. You'll learn what to eat and when, how to quiet cravings, and finally get rid of that belly fat. Plus, you'll never take a medication. How many pounds would you like to lose in 2025? Do it the natural way with PhD Weight Loss, here to lead the charge to make America healthy again. Call PhD Weight Loss and schedule your consultation. 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. Continuing today's show, you got to give it to Donald Trump. He does not back away from standing up for what he believes, period. He took aim at Bank of America's CEO yesterday during the World Economic Forum. He accused the bank right there in front of the entire world and in front of Brian Moynihan's colleagues, accused the bank of unfairly denying banking services to conservatives. Trump called on Moynihan and other financial leaders to address what he described as discriminatory practice, saying, quote, "I hope you start opening your bank to conservatives because many conservatives complain that the banks are not allowing them to do business," and that included a place called Bank of America. Now, don't you know that Mr. Moynihan could have just crawled under his table at the time? I mean, let me just paint the picture for you here. You've got, 10 or 12 CEOs of these banks in sort of a semicircle together, and Trump just calls him out right there in front of everyone. Trump suggested that regulatory policies under the Biden administration might have influenced some of these decisions, adding, "What you're doing is wrong." Moynihan did not directly respond to Trump. He shifted the conversation, emphasized that the bank's sponsorship of the upcoming World Cup was something that they planned to do and were honored to do. Later, a Bank of America spokesperson refuted the allegations, stating that the bank serves all clients, regardless of political affiliation, and adheres to government regulations, saying, "We never close accounts for political reasons and don't have a political litmus test." Similarly, J.P. Morgan Chase, another bank implicated in alleged bias, issued a statement reaffirming their neutrality, saying, "We would never close an account for political reasons, full stop." So what is all this discussion about? Trump's comments reignited the scrutiny over past allegations against Bank of America. This has been ongoing for a while. The bank has faced accusations of, quote, debanking conservatives, religious groups, and some industries like firearms manufacturers. In 2020, Timothy II Project International, was a nonprofit training pastors globally, had its account closed by Bank of America without a clear explanation. Founder Steve Curtis told Fox News that the closure disrupted their operations. The bank maintained that its decision was unrelated to religious beliefs. Yeah, sure. Another example, In 2022, a report by the American Accountability Foundation claimed that Bank of America and other Wall Street banks used their influence to restrict access to financial services for firearms manufacturers and related organizations like the NRA. Attorneys general from 15 states have been very critical of Bank of America and other banks for allegedly targeting customers based on political and religious beliefs. They argue that these practices amount to a form of ideological discrimination. So, if you've got 15 attorney generals from various states who believe this is happening, you got to believe there's something to it, don't you? Surely 15 AGs wouldn't get this wrong. And they're just acting on complaints that they have received from constituents in their states. The accusations reflect broader concerns, of course, among conservatives. We know that some of the credit card agencies started using various codes to track certain transactions, particularly pertaining to weapons and to ammunition. Critics argue that these practices undermine free enterprise and individual rights, and they do. The financial industry has pushed back, citing regulatory compliance, risk assessment as factors on the account closures. Well, I got a feeling that if, in fact, there are some regulatory issues that are causing them to act like this, Donald Trump's going to remove those issues. Donald Trump's going to have his administration remove those regulatory problems that the bank sees. Then we'll see how Bank of America and some of the others respond. We'll see if they're really sincere when they say that they don't discriminate based on your political ideology. Trump's comments at the World Economic Forum just kind of show what his administration's focus is and ensuring fair access to all financial services for all Americans. His challenge to the Bank of America signals his intent to address these types of grievances straight up. No excuses. And CEOs just need to get used to it, because this is going to be a everyday common thing with Donald Trump. We'll see. We'll see how Bank of America and some of the other banks respond. This is why I bank locally. This is why I bank with Bank of Travelers Rest, because you get to sit there and you know who you're dealing with. They live in your community. They call you by name, and there's not this nonsense. They're fair to everybody. They don't care what political persuasion you are either. But they're not going to discriminate against you because you're conservative or you're a liberal. They're just there to serve. They're a local community bank, and I bank with the Bank of Travelers Rest for 35 plus years now, and that's where I'm going to stay. I'm not going to deal with Bank of America. I quite often go to Politico just to see how they're reporting on certain stories, but I've always known that they kind of tilt back to the left. Former Politico reporters Marc Caputo and Tara Palmeri have confirmed that. They recently shared insights into their experiences at Politico, revealing instances where their reporting on Hunter Biden faced pushback, delays, and in some cases just denied them the option of writing about Hunter Biden. Their editors would deny them working on a certain story. Speaking on Palmeri's Somebody's Gotta Win podcast, they described a newsroom culture that seemed hesitant to publish critical stories about the Biden family, particularly during the early months of Joe Biden's presidency. We knew this was happening, didn't we? No surprise here. I guess the surprise is that someone's actually saying it, other than us. Caputo criticized Politico's handling of the Hunter Biden laptop story during the 2020 election, calling the outlet's coverage dismissive and overly cautious. He highlighted Politico's infamous headline. Remember this? That amplified the claims from intelligence officials calling the story Russian disinformation. That kind of started with Politico. Caputo said that he pitched covering the laptop, but was told by Politico leadership not to report, not to tweet, or discuss it, leaving the outlet's lone story to frame the laptop as disinformation. That was sort of their position on Hunter Biden's laptop, period. They were covering it up. Caputo also recounted how in 2019, a story that he wrote about Hunter Biden's tax liens that linked him to Burisma, said that the story was killed by his editor without an explanation. Caputo provided a Word document of the story as evidence of his efforts. Palmeri detailed the significant effort that it took to get her investigative piece on Hunter Biden's 2018 gun incident published in 2021. Despite having police reports, other evidence that supported her story, she said that her story was delayed for months, that her editors suggested that if the story had involved a member of the Trump family, it would have been published more quickly. We know that, don't we? Palmeri explained how her editors downplayed the fact that Hunter Biden lied on a federal gun purchase form. It's okay. That happens every day, I guess, they think. It's a felony, but I guess it's okay that Hunter does it. It wasn't really a big deal. Now, this is the same type charge. I don't know if you noticed this, but a young man who was in prison, who was one of the January 6th protesters, who was pardoned by President Trump, never even got to leave jail because they had a charge very similar to Hunter, where he had signed or had put some misinformation, they say, on a application to purchase a gun. So rather than releasing him, they immediately rearrested him on these charges. Now, it was okay for Hunter. Hunter's daddy pardoned him, and it never was a big deal. Politico didn't want to report on it. But for this young man, and I'm sorry, I don't have his name in front of me, but for this young man, he's staying in prison because of he did something very similar that Hunter Biden did. Now, he shouldn't have done it, but still, it kind of shows you the dual justice system that we have, and that's the challenge that Donald Trump has to overcome. Now, of course, Politico defended its editorial process. Politico leadership says that they're committed to accuracy and claiming that they had published rigorous investigations into the Biden family's business dealings. Yeah, sure. Sure you did. A spokesperson dismissed former reporters' criticisms as a case of false memory and pointed to Politico's eventual verification of Hunter Biden's laptop as proof of its commitment to accountability. Now, they did eventually print that. It's about 2 years late. 2 years past the point. This all came up, you may recall, in October prior to the 2020 election. Politico chose just to ignore it then. It wasn't until 2021, 2022 that Politico really started publishing some of these accounts of what the Biden crime family was up to. Fox News contributor Joe Concha noted that these omissions form part of a pattern in which the media acknowledges significant missteps long after the initial reporting period. It's kind of like we're going to do it and then beg for forgiveness, and that's what they've done here. They ignored the story, now they're begging for forgiveness, just like CNN, and it's costing CNN big time. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you could trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Let's get you caught up on some text messages here. JR writes, regarding President Trump's agenda, whatever the left screams about is the equivalent of a 2-year-old having a temper tantrum. They don't care much about morality, truth, or the needs of people. All I'll say to the president is put the hammer down. Yep, well, JR, I don't think you have to encourage him. I think Donald Trump's going to do just that. On the MyPillow message line, Faye says this.
Good morning, Joey. At some point, would you mind asking Pamela Evitt why residents who are homeowners have to pay an outside agency to keep these thieves from stealing our home titles? There is an agency called Home Title Lock, I believe, and they must have run 1 million commercials just the month of January. It looks to me like the state of South Carolina and other states as well ought to have some kind of a law to prevent this from happening. This is just an added expense for homeowners. Thanks, Joey. As always, enjoy your program.
Thank you, Faye. It's always good to get your message. Your message is welcome as well. Call 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Always use promo code Joey when you go to MyPillow.com to receive the absolute best price on every single item that Mike Lindell has there. MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Dom from Illinois writes, hey, Joey, your FEMA call. From what I'm told, the U.S. government does not make phone calls asking for information. Now, what Dom is referencing is yesterday I played for you a message that I received from a lady identifying herself as being from FEMA and that they wanted to update my misinformation, as she called it. Now, look, I never trust any of these phone calls that come to me like this, but I played the message for you yesterday, and I asked the question, should I call her back? And many of you sounded off. Many of you said, just ignore it. And that's what Dom's saying. He said, I personally do not give out any information via phone. If a call is legitimate, they'll send you a letter. Once received, I still do my due diligence and do some investigating. In today's day and age, you can never be too careful with your information. I agree with you, Dom. He said, just my thoughts. Oh, by the way, on Inauguration Day, when everyone is saying how cold it was in D.C., we here in northern Illinois, we're sitting in 30 degree below zero wind chill. Oh, wow. It was negative 17 to 19 regular temperature. But I stayed inside and watched the inauguration. I'm happy President Trump's team was able to bring most attendees inside someplace as well. Well, Dom, yes, they were, but my buddy Mike Gallagher kept me outside. So maybe you should write Mike for me. Actually, I was happy to be outside talking with people. I had the best time. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday about how much fun I had outside of the Capitol. Yes, in freezing cold weather, but it was nice and sunny and clear, and there was just a lot of patriots there on the outside of the security fence looking in, but they were all there because they were excited about our new president. And that, look, I would have missed that for any amount of money, and certainly a little bit of cold weather wasn't going to keep me away either. You know, we're already seeing some major things as we wrap up the first week of Trump 2.0. The big issue on Americans' minds last November 5th, in addition to the economy, was the border. President Trump has spent a considerable amount of time this week talking about the border and addressing the situation at the border, signing executive orders, declaring an emergency, sending additional troops, reinstating the building of the wall, and the list goes on and on. We are already seeing, as a result of just a few days now, according to the Department of Homeland Security, we're already seeing what they're calling seismic shifts at the U.S.-Mexico border just days into President Trump's return to the White House. Illegal immigrant encounters at the southern border have dropped sharply in just a few days, according to DHS, which I think probably is signaling that Trump effect that we hear so much about. Here's what we know. In the final 3 days of the Biden administration, Border Patrol agents recorded 3,908 encounters nationwide. However, in the first 3 days under President Trump, that number dropped to 2,586. 523, a 35% drop in a matter of just a few days. Daily encounters fell steadily after Trump was sworn in, from 1,073 on January 20th to just 714 on January 22nd. Think about that. Dropping from 1,073 to 714 in a day. 2 days, I'm sorry. While border numbers tend to fluctuate, this immediate decline is something to get your attention. We'll see. I mean, was this just a fluke? Will it increase? Will it go back up? I don't think so, but we'll see. President Trump wasted no time in trying to get a handle on this. His first day back in, he declared the national emergency, as I mentioned, at the border. He ordered military deployment. He ended the CBP One app, which was a big deal. This was used to process migrants at ports of entry. His administration also ramped up enforcement with mass deportation operations and the expansion of expedited removal for recently arrived illegal immigrants at the top of the list. They arrested hundreds of illegals who had broken the law once they got here, in addition to entering our country illegally, but they also have been arresting murderers, burglars, rapists, people who exploit children. They're rounding them up, and they're going to send them back to their home country. One of the other things that is contributing to the numbers dropping considerably is the fact that President Trump reinstated key policies from his first term, including the resuming the border wall, but also the Remain in Mexico program, which requires asylum seekers to wait in Mexico until their hearing comes up. You don't come in, we don't give you a hotel room, we don't give you a free airline ticket to the city of your choice, like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did. You wait in Mexico, and when your time comes, when your hearing comes, then you can be heard. And that's fair. That is fair. There's nothing wrong about that. There's nothing cruel about that. That's the law of our land. That's how it should be. Nobody else in this world has a right to be in our country. It's just that simple. Now, I know there's some really bad situations in some of these South American countries, for example, and I feel for those people. We can't save the world, folks. We can send them money. We can send them food. We can help support some of the nonprofits who serve these areas, but we can't save the entire world. We have to take care of our own people. We have people in western North Carolina right now who are struggling because of Hurricane Helene, and we can't help them. So how are we going to help people in these foreign countries? Additionally, President Trump signed an executive order ending birthright citizenship, which has already been challenged in the courts. Some liberal woke judges are holding that up already. But it's a process, and President Trump knew that. President Trump knew it was going to be a process. And like a dog with a bone, he'll see it through for sure. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. On our guest line, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Abbott. Boy, what a week, huh? I missed you at the Palmetto Ball.
I know, and I saw pictures. I said he was there. He does exist. It was such a beautiful ball, Joey. Such gratitude goes out to the South Carolina Society. I think it was one of the most prettiest balls that were there. And I know I'm a little biased, because it's South Carolina, but it was great. So many people showed up. So many people I hadn't seen in a long time. So it was great. But I hate that I missed you and Peg and Mike. I was hoping to get a picture with you guys.
Well, it's kind of like every time we get close to you, you'd move in the other direction. Mike seemed to think maybe you were just avoiding him.
Not at all. Not at all.
It was great fun, and you're right. I mean, they did such a wonderful job with it. We left there and went over to Charlie Kirk's Turning Point Ball, and I got to say, I enjoyed the Palmetto Ball much better. That nice, beautiful building that we're in, the National Portrait Gallery, and there was just something special about that for sure. And just being able to catch up with people that I hadn't seen in a long, long time, that was special too, to all celebrate our new president.
I know. And man, hasn't it been, has he slept, Joey? I mean, in your estimate, has he slept since he got sworn in, because I'll tell you, the hits keep coming with this president. It's like I don't even know if he's napping. So much is happening at such a rapid pace.
I mean, isn't it just amazing to see a president who actually is doing the job? And you're right, President Trump has not slowed down from day one. I mean, he started with signing the executive orders, and he has been so busy since then. And the amount of time that he has spent with the media, he has probably spent more time with the media this week, and the week's not even over yet, than Joe Biden did the whole 4 years.
You're absolutely right. I mean, did you see how relaxed he is, too? He's sitting in the Oval Office at his desk, signing, and just taking questions, right? Like, they're asking him something. He's not scripted. He doesn't have a note card. And I like that he's putting people in place, right?
Yep.
People are asking him, reporters from NBC and CNN, they're asking him questions, and he's like, listen, give me a chance to respond. Stop being rude. It's like he doesn't need anybody. Like, he doesn't need 10 people around him to haul him off and put reporters in their place. He just does it himself. It's refreshing to see an adult and a leader back in the Oval Office. Yep. I don't know about everybody else, but after the swearing in was done, I felt like the nation was in such a better spot. We were so much safer.
Yep, exactly. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette with me. So where did you actually watch the swearing in, since things kind of got shifted around a bit? I was out in the cold. Mike Gallagher he decided he would stay in the warm studio and sent me out to do interviews out with the people, my people, you see. But you know what? It was wonderful. I enjoyed being out there. I found the place. It was on Capitol Street, and it actually was the back entrance where all when you saw the Army bands and the Marines and all, it was the gate where they were coming in and out for the Rotunda celebration there, and it was just a lot of fun being back there with people and talking with people from all over the country who they were kind of disappointed, like I was, that they weren't inside of the fence like they had planned to be, but still they were just so excited about the fact that we had a new president.
Oh, my goodness. You were right. I mean, it was, the president, he was right. It was brutally cold. It would have been tough to be out there for 3 hours. Well, I think we would have been numb, Joey, after about the first 30 minutes, right?
Right.
But he just gave such an amazing speech. And when he talked about, I wish the cameras would have panned on the faces of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris just a little bit more.
Yep.
Because every time they did, it was like if an expression said 1,000 words.
Yep.
It was saying 1,000 words, but he was just slicing and dicing the way that they had run this country in the last 4 years, and the people and how they were hurt, our national security and how it had been compromised. And it was a breath of fresh air with every word. Ambassador Wilkins, who, here from the upstate, had invited my family and I over to Nelson Mullins. They had a big watch party their offices overlooked the Capitol. So we watched it, and the cheers in the room. There were a lot of South Carolinians there, a lot of people from the upstate. The room just broke out in applause with every agenda item he was talking about, right? Getting out of the Paris Climate Accord and, opening up our pipelines and drilling. He said that liquid gold under our feet. And it was just amazing the amount of cheering that was going on. So I think the American people are once again hopeful and excited.
Yep, and we're seeing some of those things that he talked about that day already started. Immediately suspending DEI and ordering those offices to be closed down. We're told that over the last few days, hundreds and hundreds of illegals who are here and have been violating our law in other ways as well, murderers, rapists, burglars, hundreds of those have already been arrested. So he's already doing what he promised to do, and that's the good news. But, again, just what a week. You just have to kind of pinch yourself to make sure that it's real.
You're absolutely right. And, there's been so much talk about DEI. It's so interesting that, people that seem to think DEI is a good idea, if you pose the question in a way to them to say, listen, if your loved one had to have surgery, do you want the best doctor that graduated top of his class to do that surgery? Or do you want the person who wasn't the best but got in because they had to fill some kind of quota, or that they had to check a box? Tell me who you want. And they'll say, my gosh, I want the best person. That's what we all want. Every business wants the best people. So I like what he said. We will, once again, we need to be colorblind. We need to take people on their merit. We need to make sure that the best people are getting in the best places. That is exactly what we should all want. That's when businesses thrive and everybody thrives.
It's all based on whether or not you're qualified to do that job. That's how it should be, and that's how it's going to be going forward once again. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evans, always a pleasure. Glad you're back home safe. It was quite the week, and I got a feeling we're going to have a lot of good weeks and months ahead of us.
Well, Joey, it was great. I'm glad, even though we didn't see each other, we were both in D.C. to witness this amazing event. President Trump, now the 47th president. I hope everybody keeps him in his prayers, because the more good he does, I feel the more danger he's going to be in. So everybody, always make sure you say an extra prayer for our president each night.
That's a good suggestion. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evans, always a pleasure. Have a great week.
You too, Joey. God bless.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.